Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, an authentic football fan channel made in Manchester. The topics are on your screen, people. We're going to talk about Ruben Amorim's press conference. We're going to talk about Chido's plan. The under-18s are about to kick off momentarily, if it hasn't kicked off already. The 1958 protest planned for the Manchester derby. And we've got some quotes coming out about Anthony from Real Betis, which is, again, can only be positive news for us, I suppose. How are we, Sam?
Yeah, Monday is always the busiest day for me, unfortunately. So it is what it is. Nobody likes Mondays.
Busy all day. Quite literally stacked from like 9 in the morning till 12 at night probably today. So busy. And Amorim's been a busy man as well, coming back from international break. He's been asked about players availability and team news. Luke Shaw apparently still not ready. Apparently he's been doing drills with the team. No surprise there, I would probably say. Kobbie Mainoo almost returning, but not quite ready yet. Same thing with Johnny Evans. Aiden Heaven, I know we kind of already knew anyway, but just hearing it from Amorim was quite nice, saying that I think he's been in training today, but won't be ready for the game. So is no way near as bad as we first initially anticipated. But Yoro, Maguire ready to go. And of course, we've got Patrick Dorgu back as well, available from the free match ban. Yeah, that's just, I know we already knew 90% of that, Sam, but it's just nice to hear so many players are returning when we've got such a busy period ahead. And you look at the games that are ahead as well, it's going to be difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, you need options off the bench. You need options to rotate because, like I said, there's a busy period. Big games, Forest, City. Is it Bournemouth after that, I think? And then obviously Europa League as well. Like that's upcoming, which is our season essentially. So the more bodies you can have, the more people you can swap out, rest and bring in, change things with substitutions, the better. So the fact that Mason Mount's back, the fact that Shaw's on his way back, how long they'll last, we'll find out. Aiden Heaven, so glad he's not out for a long time because that looked bad. But apparently, if he's training, fantastic. And then, yeah, having the likes of Dorgu back from a suspension is great news. Maguire's back. Have I missed anybody?
No, there's a lot of players back. I think that's probably fair to say. Which is
Yoro.
Yeah.
There you go. And there's another one. So yeah, all good times. So yeah, let's just hope we don't get any massive injuries going into the rest of the season. That'd be nice.
Well, when asked about the squad as a whole and going forward into this kind of tough run of fixtures, he seemed pretty confident, Amorim. Like the first time, I remember seeing a press conference of his probably in December. I can't remember what game it was. But I remember just looking at him and thinking, this man looks fucking defeated already. He was all grey. His hair was grey. Just looked damp. It was pissing it down outside. He just looked absolutely miserable. But today, he got asked about it. He was saying, I think I can say I'm really confident and the players are more confident. The energy is different, but I know that could change with the results. We know we have to improve and we're ready for these final 2 months of the season. We have a lot of games to play and I'm focused on my team, my players. And he got asked about Marcus Rashford as well, basically saying that Rashford isn't my player at the moment. I'm focused on the games ahead. Which is nice to hear. If he's confident, if he's got a bit of a charm about him, a bit of a... I don't want to read into it too much, but given his body language, the body language of players and what we saw before the international break, do you think we'll see a repeat of that? Or are you slightly worried that we might have a bit of a slow start to this busy fixture list?
He's not one to not be honest, is he? We've seen him call this team the worst United team that it's ever been. We've seen him say it's a storm. We've seen when we've played poorly, that was terrible and we need to improve. So he's honest about stuff. So if he's saying he's seen a difference in energy, he's seen a difference in the way they are and all that sort of stuff, then I tend to believe him and think, okay, let's see what they've got on the pitch. Let's back it up on the pitch, because how many times did Ollie say that, or did Van Gaal say that and stuff, and then they turn up on the pitch and just look like dog shit, and you're like, well, clearly in training, whatever's happening in training isn't happening on the pitch. So yeah, until I see it on the pitch, it's all relative in it. So hopefully we see a performance against Forest. I'm not very confident, I will be honest, but check out me and Nick on the preview and Shreyas if you want to see our thoughts on that. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think in the league, we're probably looking at performances just to see style of play. If we can start implementing stuff, that's what I want to see in the league, because results don't really matter too much. In Europa League, it's results. It's all about just get the win, no matter what. Just get the win and get to the final and win the trophy. That's what I want.
There was a bit of news before Amorim went live, actually, around 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, about Chido, apparently, to play in the semi-final. He was currently the top goal scorer as well in the FA Youth Cup, scoring 7 goals in just 244 minutes, which, for anyone wondering, that's a goal every 35 minutes on average. So he's involved tonight in the semi-final, which means he won't be available for the game tomorrow against Nottingham Forest. It's weird because he had that window, didn't he, where he was starting to push in, getting minutes, and people was actually pushing for it to start. Now that feels like it's been cooled down a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think he was brought in because mainly our options were really, really sort of poor, weren't they, at the time? There was that Spurs game where it was a bunch of teenagers and Lindelof on the bench, and you're just looking, going, there's not many Premier League appearances in that squad, and 99% of them are Victor Lindelof. So I think that was the case. I think that was always going to be the case with Chido originally. The original plan was to slowly do it. And then it was forced by situation. And now we're getting players back and we're getting options. I think they're going back to that plan of like let's bed him in slowly. Let's bring him in. Obviously, if he plays in the FA Youth Cup and plays like he has been playing, scores a couple of goals, it's only going to do wonders for his confidence. So it's not to say you can't bring him in later on in different games and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I'm just looking at the United team, and there's some absolute sort of up and coming stars in that team. You got Chido in there, you got Jack Fletcher, you got Biancheri, Scanlon, Kakonke. There's some really good players. You got Jim Thwaites and Ibrahimov on the bench, and Mantato on the bench as well. So yeah, some really good players coming through this rank. So I doubt Chido will be the last of them. I hope we see a bunch of them in the summer on pre-season. I hope we see that.
I need to find out what time's that game actually kick off.
7 o'clock, I think.
Yeah, I want to watch that.
On YouTube, live on YouTube. So.
Oh, right, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely going to give that a watch. Semi-finals, support the boys. Yeah, Amorim expanded on this. He was saying we have to give minutes to the kid in relation to Chido. We're trying to win that competition to build something with the youth. Chido needs to play also, so we're helping the team and the player. It's about balancing it with these youngsters. It's all good. Yeah. Saying, right, okay, you're being pushed up to the senior team, but if you sat on the bench gathering dust a little bit, what good is it actually doing you?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Amorim knows what he's doing when it comes to young players, so I absolutely trust him with that. But, yeah, excited predictions for that game, Sam. Semi-finals, obviously we won the FA Youth Cup. Was it with Garnacho and Cobby, won it a few years ago?
Not last year, the year before.
Yeah, the year before, I think it may have been.
I think we got to semis last year as well, didn't we? I think we got knocked out, but we got to semis last year.
Beat Arsenal in the quarters this year, and then that's kind of thriller. And then they got to the semis this time. I think it's Aston Villa, is it, in the semi-finals?
Yeah, against Villa,
Yeah, an opportunity again to get to the final, which shows the kind of talent that we're pushing out at the minute.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, Chelsea were dominating this competition, weren't they? Because obviously the way they stack talent and the way they bring players in, they just had top people. But last couple of years, United have definitely up there and dominating the competition. Obviously, we won it, got to semi last year in another semi-final. So, yeah, really, really looking forward to it. They're playing at Villa Park as well, which is a big stadium. So that'll be interesting for them as well, how they sort of cope with that big stadium and that kind of environment. But, yeah, all power to them. I hope they win. I hope they absolutely smash them and we get into a final.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to admit, I don't know almost anything about Aston Villa's under-18s, how successful they are or anything, so I can't really comment on that. But in the other semi-finals, you've got Watford under-18s and Man City under-18s as well, so it'll be one of those teams that they play in the final. Now, speaking of Manchester City, the 1958 group have announced a sit-in protest after Sunday's Manchester derby at Old Trafford to show football is more than just being a number on a seat where fans can be replaced by more lucrative customers, following plans to move season ticket holders to create VIP dugout. Now, there's also been a formal statement as well from Steve Crompton saying that the message from the club is clear. No matter how long you have followed United home and away, no matter how loyal you have been, if you don't spend enough money, they want us out. They don't care. On Sunday, we stay in our seats. This seat is our seat. They won't force us out. Contrary to Jim Ratcliffe's misguided comments, protests are not about results or league position. They have never been. Although clearly poor performances on the pitch don't help either. We protest against 20 years of the Glazer greed and mismanagement of our football club. Quite strong, obviously a lot of the words used in there, and rightfully so. With this sitting protest, Sam, can I ask you about protest, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying people shouldn't do it, but they absolutely should at any cost, at any case, right? Not any cost, at any case, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Are they effective?
I think they can be. I think it's situational. It depends on what you're protesting, how you're protesting, and the sort of leverage that you have when you are protesting. I think with United owners, you saw we were able to get things to happen with the European Super League. We got it cancelled because of protesting.
But that was the only time I feel where something. Do you know what I mean? Where it's actually an actual genuine.
In football, yeah, like football, it takes a lot to get football fans to move in unison and be together. You see with United fan base, there's so much division in there. Like half of us can't even agree on who should be playing, who should be managing. Do we want a new stadium? Do we not? Like there's so much division within the fan base because it's such a massive club. Like you'll never get everybody. Like people have said, oh, people who've got season tickets shouldn't show up. You're never going to get that to happen. No. It's just never going to happen. Like so, it's just
stop and buying stuff from the
buying merch. It's just not going to happen. Like feasibly will not happen. It's a very effective protest, but it's never going to happen. So you have to look at other ways in order to affect change. And I think protests can happen. Like I think a lot of people are annoyed with the sort of just stop oil protest people where they glue themselves to things or they chain themselves to. Yeah. There's that guy in the Everton game when he zip tied himself to the goalpost. Yeah. Now people are annoyed and it's inconvenience and stuff like that, but we're all talking about it. We're all talking about just stop oil protests, and it's got the eyes on it and it's got the sort of focus on it that you want it to happen. So whether you agree with the methods, whether you don't, it's got the spotlight on it, which is what the idea of the protest is: shine a spotlight on something and put enough pressure on either a government or a company or something to institute change. The problem with the Glazers and Ineos and stuff, the only change they recognise is money. So until you affect their pocket, it's going to be very difficult to affect change. So you have to find a way to affect their pocket. You can visualise a demonstration; it'll get picked up by the media, which is always good. Like any news is good news when it comes to protesting because it reaches further. But when it comes to the likes of the Glazers and Ineos, you have to hit them in the pocket. That's the only way. If you don't, they don't listen. You've seen it. The Glazers, they ask them, "Oh, do you care about this?" And they just don't care. Don't. So until you take money away from them, they don't care.
That's what I feel like. Like obviously, there's been plenty of protests that we've supported as a channel and we've been to, and been vocal ourselves. But I just feel like nothing ever. And maybe sometimes that isn't aimed. Sometimes it's just to be heard, to be vocal, because there's a lot of people that are annoyed with the ownership, and rightfully so. But I just feel like they're sat in America and they see this on the news, probably like, listen, they'll do it for 1 or 2 days. It'll die down effectively. It's not affecting us financially. And then it'll just go back to reset.
You know what? They probably don't even watch it. Like, we know they don't watch it. Like, they don't give a shit about it. Somebody will just come over and go, oh, do you see that? And they'll just be like, oh, no, they didn't see it. Yeah. They don't really care. Like, you have to make, like, people get annoyed at protesters when they make themselves a nuisance. But in order to affect change, you have to be a nuisance. You have to be an inconvenience because otherwise people don't listen. Yeah. Like if somebody's just stood outside with a placard, just shouting and going like this, you just walk by them, don't they? You're not like just all right. The thing. But if they stand in the middle of the road and they're holding up traffic, people get annoyed and they go over and they find out, and then there's a lot of focus. But so you're causing inconvenience. That's the whole point for protest. Obviously, I don't agree with violence and I don't agree with any of that stuff, but causing a nuisance, causing an inconvenience to get your point across, I'm here for it, man. So, but the Glazers only they're like you said, they're in Florida, so there's not much you can do in terms of inconvenience. And like we've seen journalists try to doorstep him and stuff like that, and they don't really care.
I'd love to speak to someone, one of those people who was in the seats near the dugout, just to kind of get a grasp on how they're feeling about the decision that's been made, because obviously that's directly affecting them more than it is just kind of regular fans who or maybe people who are even lucky enough to have a season ticket. Maybe they've got it in the Stretford end or Sir Bobby Charlton stand, etc. Just to speak to them and just say, like, having sat there God knows how many years. I remember was it the seats behind Sir Alex Ferguson?
Yes.
You had those seats there year in, year out. Obviously they've moved now, I think. But just having loyal members like that who've been there for so long, and to say, yeah, we'll move it, you're shifting you out, mate, for some corporate seats, like, that's a bit out of a touch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about money, innit? They realise those are prime seats and they can charge a lot more money for them than they're
Chelsea did
currently
it,
getting.
didn't they?
Yeah. What was it? Was it 20 grand seat they had? Was that what they had?
I remember Rory Jennings talking about it on the overlap, and he was like, it
Yeah.
used to be, he paid a fiver once to sit there, and it was £5 I
Yeah.
think, for a corporate seat now.
So 5
Of one of
grand,
the
is that what
seats,
it is?
yeah. So it
So
just
yeah,
goes to
like
show.
when you could charge more money for something, you're gonna do it as a capitalist and as someone who's looking to make money. Like we all know how bad the sort of the financial situation is at United, and they're finding every single way to make money, and it doesn't really hurt either.
Who's paying £5 for a seat though?
Somebody will. They
Who?
would not charge it unless somebody was paying for it. Like
Who the fuck has got £5?
I don't know.
That is madness, isn't it?
Rich people who have got more money than sense. Like you reach a certain point of like wealth where you've got everything you've ever wanted and you set up for life, and then you just start spending money on stupid shit, don't you? Like Jeff Bezos, he's trying to go to space, isn't he, and build a fucking rocket and stuff. Like they just start spending money on ridiculous shit because they have nothing else left to buy. That's what happens.
I've been in the hospitality. I was lucky enough because my mate's brother, one of the companies is attached to Man United, so we get tickets kind of through that. And I went with him once, and I remember sat there just thinking, this isn't worth £400. Like if you was to pay it outright, it's absolutely not worth. You get a couple of meals for free beers, and the seats are like a little bit more padded. It's kind of like I just think it's crazy how the price they charge and they can actually sell them. I think it's mad.
Well, me and my mate Rick were looking at going to WrestleMania this year.
Yeah,
because he's in Las Vegas. So I was like, oh, this would be cool. We look like if you look at prices in 2000, I think it was 2018. Front row ringside was $400, which is expensive. I grant you, $400
for ringside seat at Mania.
For ringside seat at Mania, you're like,
I'd pay that.
I'll pay it. Do you know what? Do you want to guess what they are now?
I think I know. I was looking at it. It's like 10 grand or something for a ringside.
$15,000.
Yeah.
That's without flights, without hotel, without any spending money.
Yeah.
That's just for a ringside ticket, £15,000. Now you got to ask, like, who's paying that? But clearly people are, because they sell out WrestleMania every fucking year. Yeah, so clearly somebody's paying it. So that's my answer to it. Somebody's paying it.
Celebrities, corporate. The market is there clearly. If you said, if they are making out those seats, James McGregor's just put. Imagine paying £5 to watch us at the moment. That's another thing. That's what I mean. Imagine paying £5 and you go and watch that Bournemouth game. Let's say, for example, where you get slapped 3-0. And you're like,
I was pissed off.
Okay.
I was pissed off paying 48. What is it? 48 quid. I think I paid for my ticket. I was pissed off paying that. Never mind paying £5. Fuck that.
Spenny, innit? Very, very spenny. So I'm interested to see how those sit-down protests develop and how well they're received and how well they go. Of course, I would attend that, but getting a ticket in general for that derby is going to be difficult. So it's a tricky one, that, innit? It's less accessible, more for the kind of public support.
Jay Motti, hook us up, man. Hook us up, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we're going to switch gears slightly because we've got a bit of news on Antony. More and more stuff coming out about him potentially joining Real Betis, but there's obviously a financial issue, as there always is with any transfer that's ever related to Manchester United. Isco has also been speaking on Antony as well, basically saying that we will now need to do crowdfunding to bring Antony in. That's how big of a financial market is. But he is doing amazingly well over there at the minute. I don't know what his goal involvements are at the minute, but they're right up there since he's joined on loan. How do we tackle this situation? Is it enough what he's done at Betis to generate interest in general? Do you know what I mean? Like in Europe?
Yeah. Well, clearly they like him. Like I saw he was on the shoulders of someone waving a flag and they were all going mental in the Seville derby, weren't they? They were absolutely like loving it. So clearly he's loved there. The fans like him. He's had, I think, 3 or 4 man of the match performances, scored goals and assists. So he's doing well out there. So you'd think they'd want to keep him. But is this going to be a Dortmund situation where they're like, oh yeah, we love him, we were familiar with his game, and then when it comes time to buy, they go, empty the pockets, are like, yeah, we got nothing. Sorry. But we'll take him on loan again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so if you pay half his wages, we'll take him on loan again.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck
yeah. Like, can we stop loaning to clubs that clearly have got no money? Can we stop doing that? Like,
I just think
can we loan
to a
club that's got money to buy? Like, please. Like, Jesus Christ.
I think Amorim in particular is that desperate to get rid of certain specific players. we just either do not fit what he wants or they're not applying themselves correctly. He was that desperate to just say, I don't care where he goes, who he goes to, just get him
out.
Get him out. Get him out. And luckily, because had he had stayed at United, he obviously wasn't getting any minutes at all. He was getting 5-10 minutes. Doing that now, sending him out, you might have had to pay in the short term, like half his wages, but the form that he's at there at the minute, hopefully you'd expect him to kind of be like, I know I've got a contract to United, but he's obviously well received in Real Betis. He obviously loves it over there. He's playing extremely well. Why wouldn't you be just like, as a player, just like, do you know what? I'm willing to take a bit of a wage cut just to move here. And it's easy for me to say because it's like, an extra 50 grand a week, for example. It's like a lot of money, but I don't know.
Yeah, if he like you say, if he's particularly like motivated to stay there and be there, then yeah, it's on him to go. Okay, I'll take the wage cut because obviously he's on ridiculous wages, like 200. What is it, 200 grand a week or something?
Yeah,
which is insane for the player that is and the amount of money that we paid for him. So maybe if he does take a wage cut, that means they can then free up some cash to pay a fee for him, and we could like. Everybody wins then. He gets a wage cut. He gets to stay at a club that he's clearly liked at and he's playing well at. They get the player that's playing well for them. We receive a fee for him and he leaves. Everybody's a winner. So that would be the ideal situation. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But that would be the ideal situation.
Yeah, I hope him as well as a few other players. I hope we can kind of shift on because I don't want to be going into the next season where we've got Antony on the books still. And he's just a bench
Rashford,
player. And he's
Sancho.
Yeah.
All three of them are still here.
I think that's where they're going to earn the money in EOS. Sales. Let's see how well... Like, it's all good saying you're bringing in these young talents and you're scouting a lot of youngsters as well. How well are you going to do selling these players? Because what can you do? Is there anything you actually can do? If they're on that big of a wage, is it just as black as white as, well, this is his wage, you either pay it or you don't. If you don't, then we have to keep him.
Yeah, well, that happened under Woodward, didn't it? Like Phil Jones. They signed an extension for him for no reason, and then
Eric Bailly,
he was just injured. Eric Bailly, another one. You're like, why are we extending these? Like, it was some sort of weird thing, wasn't it, where he was saying to retain value of the players or whatever it was, when these players weren't good enough, either through injury availability or just in terms of quality. So if you're going to lose them for free, either try and sell them before the contract ends, or if you're going to lose them for free, just let them go. Why are you signing them up to a further 4-year deal and paying out wages out the arse for them? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Take your hit, take the loss, and just get rid. And this is still the hangover, isn't it? Anthony, Casemiro, Rashford, like this is still the hangover left over from those decisions. And we're still suffering for it.
Yeah. Lumen in the chat, pick up yourself. Please do leave a like on the video for us if you've just joined and subscribe to the channel. James Rogan saying, imagine getting a crowdfunding page to pay for a transfer. Don't be giving Sir Jim any ideas. No, I won't be doing that. I am fascinated to see what the spend's going to be in the summer, though. Because we're hearing a load of different reports. We obviously need to invest heavily in the squad. But it all depends, doesn't it? I think the Europa League is going to have a big, big say in that. If we do manage to win that and get back into the Champions League, I think Amorim knows it as well. But you've got, how many games we've got to the final till Bilbao? 6 games, is it, I think?
Yeah, so 2 against Leon,
Quarters,
2 against whoever we get in the semis, and then 1
final in it. So 5 games until the final. And if you look at, I know we discussed the fixtures briefly the other day, but the games in between that, I think, is it Newcastle one in between Leon? Newcastle away? I think it is.
That's a tough game.
Difficult games.
Yeah. You got a derby as well before. You got your United City derby before the Europa League games as well. So it's a tough run, man. It's a really tough run. You just hope he's putting everything into Europa League. Like that's what you hope in it. It's like that has to be your golden chalice. You have to put everything on the line for that. That has to be the plan.
Well, I'm looking at the Forest game, and I'm like, okay, well, they went to extra time. Again, we mentioned this more in depth on the preview. So if there isn't anyone who hasn't seen the preview yet, then please do go check that out. But we touched on this yesterday, discussing that they must be leggy. They played 120 minutes. They've got players who are injured. United have had a full 2.5 weeks to rest. Well, some have been on an international break, but in regards to United, there's been a lot of players who have been at Carrington who have been working and training and should be ready for this game. Equally, Man City, Haaland went off in the game in the FA Cup tie. He went off with an ankle injury. I think they had 1 or 2 others as well. Gundogan was limping. So there you're looking at those kind of bits and any kind of small advantage you can get into this fixture. I don't know what to expect, is what I'm trying to say,
No.
basically, coming out of it. I genuinely, out of these games, this is like the next 5 is the testing it to see how have we actually improved, or is it back to fucking square one, basically.
Yeah, and I think there's still going to be some ups and downs over the next couple of games. Like, we're going to have moments or games where we lose, or the result isn't there, or the performance maybe is not there, because he's still not at the point where the squad is complete and they're fully behind his ideas. We've seen glimpses of it, we've seen moments, we've seen the odd game and stuff like that, but I still think there's a way to go yet. But obviously, that, like you said, it depends on the overhaul in the summer. Like, we have to get that correct, get these players out, get the correct players in, and build in the preseason. And again, preseason is never a determining factor either, because we saw Eric Ten Hag in preseason, he looked phenomenal, and then we shit the bed. Louis van Gaal, we saw in preseason, look excellent, and then just didn't happen during the season. So yeah, preseason is not even an indicator either. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, anything we've learned from United, like we said, we almost come full circle, because we spoke about training means nothing. All used to say it all the time. Yeah, they train really well. You want to see them, they're clinical, sharp. And it's like, okay, well, the match day, they're just not at it at all. So something's lost in translation there.
That's what he was using excuse, like, why are you still picking these players who are underperforming like every week? And he'd say, oh, they're doing like this in the training, this in training. And then we used to say, well, it's not happening on the pitch though, is it? No. Like, it's not happening on the pitch, so stop picking them. Like, it's not happening.
Yeah. Interesting times for United. Sir Alex Ferguson's there as well tonight at the FA Youth Cup as well, semi-final. So this could be massive for the lads if they do manage to get the dub and get through to the final, and you trust them to go through there again, because the amount of talent we have at the minute, that's the one thing at United that you can be really positive about, the youngsters that are coming through, and it's an exciting future, hopefully. So yeah, that game's about to kick off in a couple of minutes' time. Do go and support the lads, go watch it, enjoy it. I'm certainly going to go watch it as well and make my assessments of some of the individual players who have not watched as much. I want to see how they perform when the stakes are high. I'm sure Chido's going to make the headlines tonight as well. So yeah, expect him to go through, Sam?
Hope so. Yeah, I'm going to be watching. So yeah, I hope they play well and we get through to the final, because that'd be great to have another FA Cup final for the youth team. We saw Cobby and Garnacho come through from the team after that one, so maybe Chido and a couple of others come through next year.
Yeah, could we have a class of 25 coming through, or whatever you want to call it. Interesting times. Appreciate you all joining. Sorry it's a bit of a short one, but I do have to head to work shortly as well myself. So, yeah, thank you very much. Please do subscribe to the channel. We're on 13,507 subs at the minute. Socials, bottom right-hand corner of your screen, right here, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Jesus Christ, and TikTok. I think we're on Facebook as well, aren't we?
We are on Facebook, yeah.
Follow us on Facebook. Follow us everywhere if you can. For all the latest news updates, clips from the show, and other little tidbits as well. Appreciate every single one of you.